everybody, and welcome to Music Real Talk with Marbin. If you like what you're hearing, please subscribe.
That's good.
I think we're good.
Episode
30. This is a little weird. Danny forgot his headphones at home, so we're doing this without monitoring ourselves with cool reverb and lots of volume. So we're going to try to be in it. It is weird. It's like we're in a room.
It's like we're talking to each other like we just did for the last
like,
20 minutes.
What's the difference between like the...
It's recording, what's the difference? And we're speaking English.
I guess that's a big difference. So yeah, some thoughts I had this week that I want to share. I was thinking about classical musicians. That was my big thing, and like I was listening.
Wait, why did you think about it?
So I was listening to I think something came on, like I don't even know what it was. Might have been I don't even know what century it's from. Like could be Vivaldi or Handel or like whatever. It was like not one of the nothing I knew, but it just had that like vibe of like. And I was just thinking, this is so fruity, you know what I mean? Like, and then I was like, they always, I do subscribe to the idea that music and art is culture looking itself in the face. But what a funny face.
But
like
do you think maybe it's just us socially, like this is a social construct, the way we perceive classical
Fruitiness?
music? Well, yeah, because, I don't know, cartoons or something.
Could be.
Like, I
don't know. Maybe, yeah. I mean, it is beautiful. And it's just, there's something almost laughable about music that cheerful, that temperature.
And over the top. It's also very over the top.
Yeah, like going there. Like, you know, you probably would do something melodically to rein it in if you went to that place. Like, paradipo, paradipo, waradato, la 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 la. It's like just like going there, like harder and harder. But then I was thinking like, it's exactly that. But I was thinking about like this attempt to be pretty in a world that was probably so rough. Like, could you imagine? Like, Bach was born in 1685.
Nice, it's a good year.
Yeah,
I was born in 85.
I know. It's like exactly what 300 years before us.
At least.
Yeah. You know, so I mean, that was a tough world. Like, basically a bunch of savages.
When did they invent toilet paper?
Nah, I don't know what they wiped their asses with.
I know, what I'm asking.
I mean, I'm guessing paper was hard to make and hard to come by. I would guess they just kind of took a shit and then like just did
they
like
didn't have
a power slide through the woods on their ass.
They definitely didn't have
no running water. That's for
no,
sure.
I'm saying double ply.
Huh?
Double ply or triple ply.
No, whatever it was initially.
You know, they have like the polar bear, it was a grizzly bear.
Just take a raccoon and just like wipe it through there like a sponge.
Like, how new do you think? Because think about it, you have to have...
You mean to tell me that like...
You have to have a factory, right?
That like all the, like aria, like all of his arias were written with dingleberries? Yeah. It's hard to imagine, but yeah, it was a tough world.
Like,
but the
because
music...
you didn't have tracks either, so it's not like you can have. You have to have the town toilet paper maker because you can't just take it with tracks.
You can't definitely. There's no Amazon Prime, that's for sure.
Yeah, I'm saying if you make it in Chicago, you can't wipe
I don't even
your
like
ass with it
carrying the
in North
toilet
Dakota.
paper from the grocery store to my car. I order it online because it's so awkward to carry.
So when do you think they invented it?
I don't know.
But it got...
It was a big... It was like sandwiches.
It's like
People
everybody like, yes, we're into it.
Yeah, we're ready. Great idea. Slice that tree. Yeah. So
maybe they had nothing to wipe because of their diets. That's like the Joe Rogan take, where they would bring like somebody... Well, Joe Rogan didn't say it. I'm saying, if Joe Rogan talked about it, he would bring somebody that does evolution and be like, yeah, we used to eat... when
you eat possum
without anything, so
just shit a brick.
Exactly, that shit a brick, nothing to wipe, and you're like, oh wow, yeah. And then,
it's amazing that like they probably was like 200 years. People are like, why would you wipe? Makes no sense. It's like, well, why do you die at 22?
Like, why would you wipe your butthole? It's dirty. Don't touch it.
It's like it smells bad. It's like everything smells like that.
Yeah, everything smells
That's just
bad.
the way things smell.
Yeah.
You mean you cannot smell like shit everywhere? Yeah, I don't know. I honestly don't know how they managed that. This is not exactly what I thought I was going to talk about.
I guess you eat less, so you also shit less. That's also something.
That's true. Shit like once every 2 weeks. Eat like 3 raisins. Be like, yeah.
Like a goat.
Yeah. It's fucked up. They didn't have fridges. Like if you killed a cow, you'd have to invite like the whole town to eat it.
Isn't that one of the point why people actually migrate to the north because they can save food or something? I don't know. Or you have to put it in 10 billion pounds of spice.
Salt and spice. Yeah. Everything's like beef jerky. Yeah. In any case, point I was trying to make is that fast forward 300 years and you have Ozzy Osbourne, right? Making like Black Sabbath, Led Zeppelin, making like hard sounding music, like machines and like boiler rooms and like metals clanking and
now
guitars.
Even that sounds a little bit.
I know, but compare like even any metal riff in fourths and fifths to like to like even like gang 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 gang. Pieces of metal crashing drum. Like this thing and the life that these people had. 5-star hotels, like all the toilet paper, like their asses was sparkling clean. There were some women helping out with that even. Giving it the spit shine. It's nuts. And to be hardcore, Ozzy Osbourne would go on stage and eat a bat. And that's how Bach just ate 3 times a day, probably.
People in China have bats for breakfast, apparently.
Grab like 3 squirrels, be like, oh yeah, that's just what we eat. That's it. That's all I thought about.
Oh, yeah.
But it's pretty great, right?
I just think about how racist they were, probably.
Buddha.
Bach, Mozart.
Oh yeah, against everybody. But they didn't even know like black people existed. Probably they were just racist.
They probably did.
Maybe, but like they were probably racist
Jews,
against
gypsies.
the people. Yeah, and like people from next door.
Yeah, like
the
different. Like if you're in Austria, like Italians.
Yeah, it's like yeah. Well, I mean, it's tribal. It's back then. I mean, they were just your village, your community really was your unit.
I think it's a little bit before that, but
yeah,
like that. Bach was a little bit after.
I don't know anything.
I think Bach is after hunting and gathering.
Yeah.
I think we already had a few revolutions since then. But yeah, it's worth to think about.
Old times, good times.
It made sense that we had violent revolutions all the time in Europe at that period because your life sucks and you're like, fuck! You know what I'm saying? After a while.
This isn't working at all.
Like after 20 years, you're like, fuck!
Let's just take everybody's head off and start again.
Yeah.
See how that works. Yeah, it's weird. That we were just talking about this. I saw a video with a psychologist who was appalled by people under 35. That's what he was saying. Appalled.
And we're 35, so we're
just made the
perfect.
Cutoff. Close call, us. But yeah, he was talking about flat speech, about how people like say things that sound thought out and sound like there's feeling behind it, but it's just acting. Everything is acting was the point. And even the modern revolutions, they feel like they're for the cameras. They don't feel like the 60s where people actually wanted, where the change that they wanted, naive it's still naive now and it was naive then, but then it came from emotion and now it's signaling, now it's just doing it for Facebook, for the selfie, for Instagram.
Well, we talked about a few examples, but you can see it with, I don't know, Justin used to tell us that NWA made a huge difference where he grew up. And a lot of people know that you see Sopranos made Italian mobsters act more like Sopranos.
Right.
It's like it starts as an imitation of reality, and then immediately reality just everywhere becomes unified by imitating that. So when you see movies about whatever it is, it's just
I mean, the power of culture.
It's insane.
It's insane.
Yeah.
It's the strongest force, and especially the mainstream. I mean, mainstream culture really
Well,
shapes how people feel.
Ben De Laurentiis explained to me how he writes hits and how come all his songs are like hit after hit
Number
after
one,
hit,
huh?
number one hits. And I never thought of, well, didn't work obviously, but it is smart. So he would just take a phrase that everybody says all the time.
Like, see you later.
Yeah. See you later.
Alligator.
I miss you already. But every time you say see you later, you think about his song, See You Later.
Right.
So that's what he would do. And that's kind of what happens with culture that's not abstract like fusion. If you're in a relationship, you've seen, let's say, a romantic relationship, you've seen 10 million movies about romantic relationships. So it's a lot of that stuff is ingrained in your brain, a lot of the imagery.
Sure. I mean, it's. I think it's beyond that.
Yeah, but I'm saying you're acting out a part. That's what you want it. If you want it or you don't want it, you're acting out a part because when you do something, you're aware of it because you saw somebody else do the same thing. Mm-hmm. So it's like you're distanced from what you're doing.
Yeah.
And then you see it with people all the time. It's just very extreme because now everything is online and you have everybody doing it. So,
I mean, I think the thing that guy was saying that really, I saw a big problem the whole time we were touring in the States, and the whole time I spent a lot of time, as many people know, playing guitar in cafes, doing live streams, and really just kind of being in a place, not that like, I'm the greatest at like singing and playing these songs, but I do something that has some quality to it that some people can resonate with, and most of the time just shoot out.
It's unusual. It doesn't matter how much you like it. It's unusual.
It's unusual, and beyond that, I'm also not kind of shooting out my own stuff. I'm shooting out proven words with proven melodies. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, for instance, stuff that is Johnny Cash, Sinatra, Hank Williams. To me, the things that represent the most beautiful aspects of American history, formed through art. And the amount, like, all the reaction I get to what I'm doing is through my phone. Like, for people on the street, some people will stop and enjoy it for a second, but it's a rare thing. Most people just don't interact with it as if it's something that exists. They just, and that's fine, but that could be for a variety of reasons. But that's one way I interacted with it, but also something I saw that I didn't know how to, some sort of thing happening to people lately. And the person I was listening to, his name is Sam Vaknin. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. I think he's Israeli. I'm not sure. He sounds Israeli. But anyways, the big point that he was making is that, from the Renaissance to the 50s was really the age of thinking. Your frontal cortex, you have a side of it that thinks and a side of it that feels. And after that, they saw that the basic premise was, look where thinking got us, Nazis, whatever, communism. Let's try feeling. And that was kind of the 60s. Let's make policy. Let's do a lot of things based on empathy and feeling. And that really didn't get us very far too. And after the 80s was kind of the age of just entertainment, to just trade them in for this.
But it all did get us pretty far.
Huh?
We just talked about it. We used to shit in the woods and
and
hope that there was a squirrel nearby.
Well, yeah. In some ways, I think like all technological advances to a large part have been very positive. But since the 90s, if you take out all the screens from a room and you ask somebody which era they're in, you know what I mean? How would you know they're not in the 80s anymore?
What do you mean?
Like, if I took you to your house and I took all the screens away, like what kind of technological progress really affects your life?
A lot of it. What do you mean? A ton of it.
Which one? Without any screens, no internet?
Well, if you look at it in 2 seconds, time.
I'm saying like superficially.
Well, like washer and dryer are much cheaper, for example. It's like
Yeah.
stuff like that, you know.
Yeah, things do improve, but I'm saying they certainly stopped improving exponentially. Like life got so much easier, I would guess, from the 20s
Well, it's
to the
tough
60s,
to
and from the
tell
60s to the 80s.
It's tough to tell because we don't. It's tough to imagine what could be easier.
Right.
But it's not even easier. It's just different. It's like you gain something and you lose something. That's just the way. That's just the way.
Sure, but
stuff go.
my argument would be this: if you take a look at the technological progress as a human species that we've made since, like, let's say the year 2000 till present day, does the negative outweigh the positive? I'm not sure. If
Well,
it
you
does or
also
not.
are looking at it from your perspective, which is a perspective of somebody that's very close to the center of the cake.
Right.
You know, living in Israel or in
The States.
or in the States. But if you look at people that
In
like,
Africa,
or
right.
India or whatever, that were rising out of poverty in an insane rate in the last 20 years, or China, then you know, for them it's a huge difference.
Well, fuck them.
Yeah,
No,
I'm just saying.
No, I'm kidding. Yeah,
Just saying generally. So
yeah.
it's not that easy. It's not that easy to understand. The stuff with what we always talk about with technology, yeah, it fucking sucks. Listen, I was going a few years ago. I don't know. I know I remember it now, but I don't remember how we got into it originally. And I was talking to this Uber driver about how crazy it is that monkeys like us can sit behind a car that goes 80 to 100 miles an hour when we can't run even, you know, half the speed, not like, I don't know, 20% of the speed. We can't, like if you sprint, you're not going to get close to the slowest car. So it's like, how crazy it is that you put all those monkeys behind those metal machines that
it
go
works somehow?
so fast, and somehow our brain
Adapted
can handle
to
it.
Handle it, yeah.
Yeah. So it's like we do things that are not. It's like my only point with that was that we do things that are not that obvious that they would work, and the same thing with the screen. It's like it's not that obvious that stuff works with what we are, because we don't change that much at the end of the day. People are not that different. Evolution doesn't work that in 1,000 years. Like we're not that much different than Moses as people. Like we probably eat more.
Yeah.
You know, and he was probably like 3 feet shorter than us. But I'm saying it's like as people are kind of the same. That's why
The
you can
hardware
read.
hasn't changed.
Yeah, that's why you can
fundamentally.
read a lot of stories and a lot of stuff from, again, like the Bible 2,000 years ago, and you get it. You know, and it deals with a lot of the same things, even though in different architecture. So,
Well, where I was going with the thing was, okay, regardless of whether technology, that the progress is all bad or all good, obviously it's somewhere in between. And for people who are, the most privileged in society or closest to that, it somehow tapers off and is really
well, you can see it now. But
lifts more people who
listen,
are.
if you see somebody that's really rich, we talked about a lot, but if you see somebody that's really rich and you compare their life to your life, they're not as different.
They're just better stuff, better versions of the same things.
Not
Bigger car, bigger screen.
Exactly. So it's and
First
progressively,
class
it's not
coach.
that much. It's not that much better.
Right.
Eventually.
Yeah, like we're in a place where the poorest and the richest person in the country still has the same phone.
And a nice coffee shop, and they can
And
go
a
and get nice coffee.
Nice Americano, right.
Yeah, but I was saying that for me, for somebody who doesn't make a lot of money, it's like my house is super nice, and I have a big yard, and not huge, but like nice yard.
Right.
And it's like I have a car that's 2013 Hyundai, which is not the best, but it's definitely not the worst, you know.
Right.
And it's just,
Yeah.
it's like I have stuff that's pretty nice. Like it will make a difference for me to have more money, just a sense of security, and maybe like small things, like I don't know, I would take a trip, and I wouldn't even know where to take a trip to. But I'm saying, just imagining.
Yeah, well, in terms of comfort and luxury,
It's
the gap is very small. In terms of influence, the gap is infinite. Like
Yes.
a billionaire can really change the way things are in this sort of culture, especially like some of the big. There are people running.
Yeah, even
the
though
world.
you saw Bloomberg and he was trying to run and he ate shit completely.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
and he spent a lot of money doing it.
That's true. Let me get past that to the actual point. The point he was trying to make is that after the age of thinking and feeling came the age of just action. that everybody now is acting, that the obsession is with doing things, and you're judged basically on the purity of your goals, regardless of the motivation. That people there's an implicit motivation that we draw from social media, really basically all negative. That's some sort of Darwinistic evolution of algorithms, just what commands attention. Somehow we're all prone to the dark sides of, to competition, comparison, jealousy, envy, all these things that come out of feelings of inequity, that come out of just being on these platforms where you see everybody posting the best day of their lives in a loop, mixed with all their snapshots of their accomplishments.
You made a point when we were talking about how we're already living in dystopia, and if you look at Matrix, what was the Matrix really? It's like people are connected to computers that show them the reality that we want to see, and if you see somebody on their phone, it's exactly that, because they're so engulfed, they're just on their phone, they are not interacting with the world around them when they're in their phone.
The funny thing
about... They're in the Matrix. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I understand completely. And the funny thing about the Matrix thing is that if you were to actually write the movie as it played out in reality, it would be some sort of reversal. Not very fun to see, where a bunch of people are hanging up on the ship, eating that fucking gray shit. Yeah. Talking to each other, plugging their heads to the computer, learning how to fight kung fu shit, and then they'll be like, let's make robots, and then climb inside them. It's like the people were making the Matrix, not the robots, and voluntarily plugging in.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, this is the classic. It's almost like a cliche to mention it, but the classic Nietzsche premise of the problem of the world, like the whole we killed God and we don't, now we have to wash the hands from blood forever, is the idea that once you take away kind of the...
Oh, like I said it in German, Schmetterling ach Nacht, Achtung, Seid.
But, the idea is that, without the...
Schnell. That's how I said it.
Without the supporting structures of religious morality, if we still act in the world, we're clueless, right? And both me and you are not religious. And I mean, I always feel in a way...
Yeah, but you know what? Okay, so I'll bring it to music later. But I was thinking about it. Don't you get annoyed? You remember when I sent you this video of a Reform synagogue with our nonsense when we did with RBG? So when you say Reform, I always thought about it, why I think it's so ridiculous to me and why it kind of gets me mad. And I was like, because at least I know what I'm not doing. Right. Do you know what I feel like? I know the rules. I'm Jewish. I know the rules of Judaism. I know that I don't follow most of I don't follow a lot. No. Follow a lot of them, the main ones. Yeah. But I know that I don't follow a lot of more day-to-day rules. Okay, let's say that. I'm not talking about commandments. I'm not talking about other stuff. I'm saying, but I accept the structure of Judaism, and I understand my place in it. Mm-hmm. What I don't like about a lot of stuff that we see is that they don't accept the structure. That's the big difference between us.
Well, the idea that you could intuitively change things about kind of a primordial thing that you inherit, like the structure, like the moral and ethical structure that is born out of religion. That's not really the point of the religion, but is kind of like a feature, not a bug, of it, and that you could just somehow mess with it. Endlessly, and people and everything will be fine.
And it'll be the same too.
And also it puts people, the followers, which are kind of like cult followers at that point, at a very, you have a lot of power over the people you're controlling. So the people making the rules, I don't feel like most of the time it's maliciously. They do it because it's they think it's an adaptation to modern life.
It doesn't matter. Right. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't matter. Listen, okay. if you take somebody's life, I'm going to take not extreme, maybe a simple example of it. Let's say I take your life right now, okay? And I don't know a lot about your life with your wife.
Right.
Okay, but I'm talking to you, but I'm talking to everybody.
Right.
I'm generalizing. And let's say now you don't say bye to her when you leave a house anymore. Okay, that's a tiny thing. Your marriage is not going to collapse because of it, right?
Sure.
And then let's say you sleep in different rooms, which is also, people do it. You're not going to collapse. Now let's say you're not ending together. Like if I keep biting small thing, like there is no one point when you'll be like, no, that will destroy it. But a lot of things like that. Because there are some things like, yeah, if you fuck around and your wife finds out, it's probably done. You're probably done.
Right.
Right? But if you just nibble and all those little things, it's like there is no one thing that will destroy it.
Sure.
But if you do all of them.
Yeah, I mean, you're kicking kind of a lot of plaster walls, and eventually you're going to find a support beam.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. And it's not predictable what keeps a big structure together.
I know, that's what I'm saying. It's not obvious.
Right.
That's my point of it. So
that's my
problem.
The engineer put the weight everywhere.
So so I'm saying, so you say you're not religious, but like you're not religiously Jewish, but it's not that true or simple.
But I'm saying bringing it back to music is really what made me think about this, which is the number one people want you to tell them when you're doing a live feed or a lesson. What do I practice? Yeah. What warm-ups do you do? Which is just another form of like, what do I do with my body, right?
Warm-ups is something I get too. Yeah,
I know. I never did a warm-up in my life. It's like, that assumes that you get cold, that somehow temperature is involved, and like they're like a motor. It's just really taking like engine talk.
Cocaine.
Exactly. To warm up. Yeah, take an Adderall. You'll be warm.
Yeah.
But this thing, what do I do? It's like, well, what you do is you wake up the part of your brain that tells you what to do. And this is a really hard thing, because a musician that that didn't make the choice of what style of music they're gonna play, it's kind of like a guy waking up, like just walking around the street. It's like, who do I worship?
Or like, I want to be an athlete. What should I train?
Yeah.
It's like what do you want to play basketball? Do you want to swim?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's like you're not like you are so lost in the world. Like you are nothing without some sort of connection to some lineage. Like, do you want to play blues?
Yeah.
Maybe start with it's just such an insane.
Yeah, that's what I tell a lot of students too, and a lot of people, that they are so obsessed about what to practice, and like so little that everything you're gonna do, it's good. Mm-hmm. It's like, that's how little you know. It's like you don't have anything down. What are you worrying about what to practice? It's like you have everything.
Yeah.
Start somewhere. Everything like you're not wasting your time because you don't know how to do anything.
But connecting back to the point, I'm not so sure that's true. That's what I've been telling people too. And I've always been quoting that Na'aseh v'nishma, which means like we'll do and then we'll hear. That's one of the main guidelines of Judaism. It's a religion about doing. You don't. It's not like it's not about the purity of your heart. That's Christianity, right? It's like repentance, understanding that you've sinned, understanding you're imperfect, forgiveness, compassion. That's Christianity. In our religion, inside the framework of the belief, everything is about doing. But we are so cut off, and I feel like I happen not to be, in a way, right? But what is the framework is so invisible, to some people. I mean, if I actually ask myself some questions about like, what is why am I doing things? Why do I practice playing, let's say, a certain subdivision, speed, the cleanliness of the lines, the notes, the songs? It's an aesthetic journey. But we do have some sort of like light at the end of the tunnel that we've constructed in our mind, like this archetypal for me, a guitar sound / way of playing / hero that when I think about what great playing is, it connects to. Now, it's not like somebody specific. That's a mistake, right? That's making that's like a Jewish commandment. That's making an image of God. That's like the idea. It's like I want to be.
You mean like somebody that plays accurately and fast and great tone and great touch and layered
also,
playing
and it's not as narrow as one person. It's not as narrow like
it's not the lines because it's not in the lines. Yeah,
and it's not. It's not if you make it to be Alan Holdsworth or whoever, Richie Kotzen or Greg Howe, doesn't matter who your hero is, or John Coltrane, then that's all you're gonna get. Which is, it's not that, but it's impossible to even talk about because in a way it's such a subjective tunnel into something very objective.
I think one of the problems is, you remember when we did a clinic in Chattanooga and it was...
The snowstorm thing?
I think and I was explaining something about practicing slow, and I was demonstrating, and the teacher was pretending to be a student, and she was pretending to be a student in daycare, like in kindergarten or something.
Yeah, they were college students.
And she was like,
so embarrassing.
But I don't feel like practicing, and it's like, it's boring. It's like, what should I do? And I said, don't practice. I was like, what should you do? You're a grown person.
Shove a cucumber up your cunt, bitch.
I think a kid shouldn't. I think a kid shouldn't practice too. It's like this entire idea that like there is a lot of suffering involved in playing, okay? Because you're torturing yourself with how much you suck and how you want to get better. And that's the torture.
Yeah.
And it is a torture. And especially, it's like a torture that lasts for many, many years and actually never leaves you. Because we all have this time that, like, I hear myself play, like a lot of stuff. I was trying some stuff in the auditory stuff, and I was like, I'm listening to it, and I'm like, I fucking suck. I can't play saxophone. I fucking hate it, right? It's like, I'm embarrassed. It's torturing me.
Right.
And it's just, so there is this kind of suffering, but I don't suffer playing the saxophone. Right. I like playing the saxophone, and I like exploring the saxophone. I like spending time with the saxophone, and I like thinking about music.
Right.
And it's like, don't do something that you hate. Especially don't do something that you hate that has no money or fame or future in it. That's the thing that's the weirdest to me about musicians, because there are so many musicians that barely practice. Why are you a musician?
Yeah.
It's like you don't even enjoy the little thing about being a musician. It's just weird.
It's funny. So that same, I'm building this thing gradually, I understand, but the same guy who was talking about, where actions come from, right? And actions come from motivations. And like the idea is that online you get very negative motivations. And his idea was that negative motivations can't lead to good action, which I think is true in your family life and in your social life and even in your internal life, right? It's like you don't want, like when you put down the instrument, you still have to be with yourself, right? It's like you are you, and there's some level of working on that goes on to every human life. But in art, when you hold the instrument, I don't believe it's all positive. We've talked about it a lot of time. And I think that's something that's unique to artists, unique to, I don't know about other artists, but unique to, I see it in musicians, which is what I know about. And my mom told me about this concept a long time ago called negative capacity, right? And it's somehow when you're making a picture of something that's true, of reality, which is really a lot of what artists do, whether you're painting or making a song or drawing sounds, you're drawing from the good and from the bad, and from the positive and from the negative. And it's like this ability you have to maybe tap into some pretty dark parts of yourself and somehow come back relatively unscathed, And I think that's a big part of it, like a big motive. And we've talked about it on the podcast before, but a big part of motivation comes from a place that's almost envious, right? A big part of
but I think it's true for other stuff. It's not just art. I don't see how it's like motivation is not it's a layered thing. It's not just one thing.
Sure.
I think so. Not every motivation you get is like first of all, you don't understand your motivation, and then second thing, even if you like the stuff that you understand, I would say not everything is positive.
No, it's not.
It's like everything is like has some positive in it, some negative in it.
But I'm saying in art, it's almost necessary. It's like you get to, people who I don't see.
It's necessary generally. Listen, I have a problem with people who remember we had this dinner with Dan, but it's just an example because everybody meets a lot of people like that. We had this dinner with our friend, and we were talking shit. I don't know what about, and he was saying, why do we have to be negative? Mm-hmm. And you remember what I told him?
No.
I wish I remembered the exact quote, but it was something about like, what do you want us to say? Do you want to be like, hey, everything is great? It's like, yeah, wow. I had a muffin today. It was awesome. Nice. It's like, it's not interesting. It's like, to me, okay, so if you talk about negative stuff, and that's really lesson to everybody, but specifically to women, I feel like women needs that lesson. It's not that you can't be negative or talk about negative things. You just need to make them funny. So the other people listening to it will have a good time hearing you bitch about it.
Right.
But negative things in a funny way, that's the best thing to listen to.
Of course.
But just positive thing is so, like, don't you meet, I met so many people, it's like, it's oppressive. The way they are.
It's insane.
Because they would not acknowledge reality. And it's like, we're like, oh, you can't say bad things about that, you can't say about that, you can't say about... Dude, but this is reality. It's like, why can't I say what is obviously already manifested? Yeah? Right. Why am I the bad guy for just acknowledging reality? Sure. You know, it's
sure.
So I'm saying, bitching is fine.
Right. Yeah, there's a tree falling on you. It's like there's... No. Yeah. It's like that. I don't know. That flashed me back. Like having I'm married, so it's like having couple friends. I'd always like sometimes like we get into like couple talk.
What's couple talk?
It's like it happens sometimes where like you bump into people on the street. It's always the same kind of example, like the small talk you have. It makes me feel like I'm having a psychotic episode. Like, like yesterday, like, like I was cold, but she was hot. And it's like, ha, he is actually hot. And I am cold.
Yeah, that's exactly. You know what I mean? Am I a person right now? That's exactly what I think.
He's a morning person, and I am a night person. It's crazy because she's a night person, and I am a morning person. It's like, I just feel like I want to like take the
but it's coming out of your mouth, like the stuff that's coming out of your mouth.
I want to like rip my face off.
Yeah, no, it happens to me. Not just in that case. It happens to me. What happened to me? We were, I guess nobody that does it with me listens to it, but it's like we were talking about competition, jiu-jitsu after jiu-jitsu, and this one guy showed me a picture of his trophies. And I was like, are you three? That's what I want to tell him. I didn't tell him that because he can choke the shit out of me. Right? It's like, I don't care.
His trophies?
Yeah. And I was like, I don't care. It's like... Yeah,
you should have showed him like an All About Jazz review.
I just don't understand it. It's like, it was so weird. I was like, am I a human being? Are you a human being? What's going on right now?
I feel even weird like when I meet somebody like new to like tell them, like they ask me what do I do? I'm like, I play guitar. It's like, are you in a band? It's like, yeah. Like,
that's exactly how I am, yeah.
I don't even like, it's like, I'm not gonna like start promoting my band. It's like hoping that you like fusion.
Yeah, it's like, to me, if you liked what I'm doing, you would know who I am. That's basically how I feel mostly, so.
Yeah, it's weird, dude. It makes the whole, to me, I'm afraid to open that door of like the show and tell, because I know they're just like sitting there waiting for their turn to like show me something. Can I talk about the student I had? Blew my mind.
Sure. Wait, can I say one thing before that? I gave this example before, and I just told you about it, but I just think that will bring it back to music a little bit. About when we went to the Tetons, and when I go and do things, I don't bring my phone on purpose because I'm so addicted, and so I make myself not be with it. But everybody, including myself, you see, when you're hiking, you see things as good picture opportunity. So your mind is so infected by this pandemic of nonsense that you start viewing the world like that. And what I was telling you before we started recording, that it's the same with basically with porn and with movies. And we moved to the States, and we didn't really stop being Israeli, but like your world is different, and you start being different. Mm-hmm. And when you go back to Israel, you understand. Everybody that moved to a new country get this. I heard from a lot of people that when you go back to your old country, you understand that you all of a sudden you're not that anymore. Because I don't feel American, and I think that most people don't feel American. It has nothing to do with my my accent. It's just the way I carry myself and the way I talk and the stuff I talk about, and what I do. But I'm already not Israeli either.
Right.
So it's like it just happens, and that's the same thing with music too. When people now, and that's something I feel like we talked about on the podcast, how people are just aiming not to CDs anymore, but just aiming for content, mm-hmm. and everybody doing stuff that's great content, and just that's what they see. Like the Jacob Collier 2020 thing that he did, that everybody knows what I'm talking about because everybody saw it in the world. Yeah. 2021. Yeah. And it's nothing musically. It's nothing. It's like you would not record that music on an album. You would not do a DVD with it.
For those who don't know, it's when he...
Everybody knows it. Well, Jacob Collier 2021. Google it.
Yeah, he liked it. He played like something and basically was writing Happy 2021 with MIDI.
I saw it like 10 times probably. Because I was like, oh. And then thinking about it, I was like, oh, it's obvious how to do it.
Right.
Because piano is basically that.
Right.
Like that's how the piano laid out. So it's actually pretty obvious how to make it.
Yeah.
And so it's pretty obvious. But it still made me look at it a lot of times. It's like it's great content. And when other people took it and played over it, it's like it made this entire monster and snowball out of nothing. Mm-hmm. It's just... My point is, it infects your perception. And it's like you just become this tool. And it's terrible.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Something I keep thinking about is like... I wish there was... I could have like a history book from like 100 years from now that actually exposes some of the processes that happen truthfully, if anybody ever finds out, like the thing that happened to culture here from the 70s to the 2000s, like this, how Paul Simon and the Beatles and those kinds of people could be at the spearhead of culture and then be replaced by Justin Timberlake and Britney Spears and then Justin Bieber and like this,
and then Cardi B
and it's like this had. I mean, I understand that this is simple, just market behavior to some extent, and it's just such a plunge into madness, you know, and it's the mainstream is just it's gotten to a place where I just don't. It's hard for me to imagine that there are tens of millions of people who like it, but there are.
When I was driving here today, before my phone, before the Bluetooth plugged in, there was a song playing by Mumford & Sons, Little Lion Man.
Yeah.
It's not your fault by mine.
Little Lion Man.
Yeah. I really fucked it up this time, right? My dear, right?
I like it. He put that voice in of like, I am sobbing,
but
emoting.
They muted the fuck,
right?
The fact, and I was like, how is this still a thing that they mute some words?
Yeah,
that they blip some words. It's so strange.
It is. It is.
It's like this song is offensive compared to other shit. It's so crazy. It's so crazy because you can say the craziest shit without. Obviously, I have to bring it to Hitler because that's the best. But like, I don't think Hitler ever. You don't have to blip anything that Hitler said. Right. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's so weird that blipping is still a thing while the culture is also where it is at the same time. It's psychotic.
Yeah.
Like, why are we still blipping stuff?
Because the prevailing ideology is that ideas are not real, you know, and words are.
Yeah, it's just to put me in a dissonance. That I feel like it's like we try to put everybody in this weird dissonance that you accept the craziest stuff on one hand and the most vile things again, which I don't care.
But again,
it doesn't affect. I have to say, vile things don't offend me. I don't care, and so it's not like it's much worse than what shit Zappa said. It's like, I don't care. It's funny, it's fine. I'm just saying that stuff with the blip in.
The dissonance between the kind of verbal puritanism and the sexual promiscuity at the same time is insane.
Yeah, like why fuck is a word that you need to blip? It's like I don't understand it.
When you can literally go and fuck your dog.
Yeah,
and that's acceptable. I don't know either. It's very strange.
Yeah,
very strange.
My brain breaks. Anyway, want to talk about your student?
Yeah. So I had an experience this week. I mean, I just don't know. Could be that my read on it is he just had a heart attack right after our lesson. Something tragic happened. But it was a real experience. This guy, I taught him one lesson. He was like I think in Scotland or something. And
maybe the ship got lost.
Yeah, he didn't pay for the lesson, and he ghosted me after. Which it's okay with me.
Well, there is no reception where a ship went.
That's actually okay with me. Like I feel like I thought about it a little bit, but it's kind of going away from my mind. I feel like he's like when you do something like that, you have to live with it.
You don't think about the money.
No, that's a thing you did. That's just a part of your life now.
Yeah.
But But it was so bizarre because he played kind of a Tommy Emmanuel style, and he did it well, and he sounded good, and he played like a jazz song, and he played it for me, and I thought it sounded great, and I was like, you do that better than I could, if I had to learn exactly what you played, it would take me like all day.
Fall asleep?
No, but it's like, it's nice. And then I was like, yeah, but like I can't like really improvise on it. And then I started laying it out, like, we're playing the same repertoire, same songs, but where I am and where you are, there's a big void of knowledge and skill between us in the way we put ourselves together, right? You have learned where to put your fingers and how to make them sound really nice and maybe you even came up with a lot of this arrangement that took some knowledge of how things move in music.
Oh, a lot of trial and error.
Right, but I can play through it in real time.
Yeah.
And we got to this wall where I think he started, maybe for the first time, understanding the depth of the void, right? Meaning, I started talking about time, metronomes, harmonic choices, modes, and just laying out some reasonable long-term ways of improving some of the, like how to get from the first to the second chord in the song, and then the second to the third.
Well, people
no, but he was getting so flustered and so frustrated. It's like, yeah, I know all that type of thing. Give me the real stuff.
Yes, I'm saying two things. So one thing is people are always under the impression, which makes sense, in the impression that we're one step away from being good. Okay? And it makes sense. If you listen to somebody, that's something that I always thought. If you listen to somebody that's 19, and he's kind of good,
mm-hmm.
and you listen to somebody that's amazing, you can somehow imagine the closing the gap.
Yeah.
But if you see somebody that's a professional and somebody is like that actually been playing for 30 years, and then somebody that's really fucking good, you can see that they're so far away that they will never make it.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Of course.
That those people that are not that good, it's like because their flaws are so... It's like if you had a huge mole on your head, and they'll be like, oh, if I just remove my mole on my head, I would be good looking. But people that don't have that mole, you're like, oh, you're just ugly. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's not... It's easier to imagine yourself being good if your flaws are so obvious. So that's one thing, what those people think, but they're just one step away. And what you're telling them, you're 10 billion step away.
Yeah, your whole life has been moving in a... Again, you know some things that are going to be super helpful, but you're talking about a process of years. When
we just moved here, a guy saw me play in a jam session,
mm-hmm.
and I'm sure you remember it, and we saw me playing a jam session, and he asked for my number, and he called me later, and was like, I want to play like you. I want to do exactly what you're doing. I want to take lessons. And I told him one lesson, that guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I explained to him how to work with a metronome. And he said, I don't work with a metronome. I said, well, if you have to learn how to subdivide, and you have to play in time, that's a huge part of it. It's actually the main part of it.
Right.
And he's like, yeah, but it's not for me.
Let's go to the next thing.
Yeah, but it's like there is no next thing.
Exactly.
It's like if you can't play in time, like nothing would work. And the same thing with scales. I had the same thing too. When I explained to people about scales, they're like, oh, but other people talk about scales. That's not why I'm coming to you. I was like, well, you have to start.
Well, but that what you said right there is the point. And that's the thing I kept thinking about. It's like, he got to a place where we were talking, and he was like, okay, well, I'm here and you're here. Let's kind of split the difference. Let's meet somewhere in between our approaches. You know what I mean? Give me something I can use in my world. But I wouldn't go study with Tommy Emmanuel, who does this stuff really the best. Yeah. For what he's doing, he's the best at it that I've heard. I don't care about where that road ends up, where it leads. I don't want to play great arrangements, really thought out, like classical music type thing on an acoustic guitar. Even of the songs I like, it's not the way I am interested. Nothing about it grabs me as a person. It's not my whole trajectory.
It also doesn't seem like a journey you would like to take.
No,
same thing with classical music. I don't understand the journey.
Everything about it seems boring and redundant to me. No matter, and I know it feels amazing to play like a Rachmaninoff thing on piano. I see how great it must feel to stand there at the end of your journey after 20 years of practicing and just see your hands float, and I don't give a shit. It's just not, it's not the sport I like. I'm not saying baseball isn't amazing. I just think it sucks.
Boring.
It's boring, right?
It's boring.
But for somebody who's into it, great, have it, But the point that I'm trying to make is that he came to see me. I didn't come to see him.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have this interaction. We're not having this interaction because we're both trying to kind of meet halfway. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's the one thing that a lot of people who don't understand. I see this a lot, like with people on the live feed too. They ask questions like, "What jazz song should I learn to get good at jazz?" It's like, if you don't, it's so backwards. If you don't want to play jazz songs, why are you like? What are you hoping to get? I mean, I'm guessing the journey towards this thing is you hear a guy like Schofield play over a vamp, and it sounds so different than the guys
so you want to learn
like.
Okay,
so you feel like it's almost like evoking. Like you don't hear jazz, but you hear the ghost of jazz behind him.
Yeah, for sure.
He's coming from a deep tradition, right? So it's like all of a sudden, all these guys. It's not like all these guys jamming on an A minor chord. There's somehow he's rooted. He's connected to all these dead people. Yeah, you hear everybody's ghost. You hear some Louis Armstrong. You hear some Parker.
It's not that obvious.
It's It goes way down and way deep and way back, and you're just. And what you do is you look at that thing underneath John Scofield, and you're trying to like pull at it, right? Yeah. Pull the root out. And it's like, no, I don't want it to go so deep. It's like, no, I just want the thing. Like, just give me the thing. But you can't get one layer deep because it won't sound like anything. Yeah. Right? There is no such thing. It's either all the way or none at all. It just stays the same.
It's also quantity makes difference in quality. In that sense.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was just... But it's weird with adults, because I've seen, teenagers get totally...
Because you would think... Well, it's because you assume that adults are not in the world of imagination. But that's another thing that I tell students, too, that I don't care if you practice. I'm not your dad.
Right.
And also to me, if you don't want to practice, you shouldn't practice. You shouldn't be a musician.
Right.
Musician is... My life is great because I know what I'm getting and I know what I'm losing. But if you don't like it, you should not do it. It's not the kind of job. Like if you're a computer programmer and you're okay, you have to do something.
Right.
So you might as well do something that's that have work in a place with AC that has a ping pong table and nice food and beer after work and pays you a lot of money.
Right.
You might as well be a computer programmer. You not might as well be a musician.
Right.
Which is not as might as well be profession. This is not what you should do.
What were some of the... You were saying if you were going to be a computer programmer and have a band on the side, you had some great band names.
Oh, Bugging Out.
Bugging Out. That was a good one.
A few ones. No, but it's just those people. That's something, again, that I tell adult students. It's like, you don't have to practice. You don't have to be Charlie Parker. This is not a fail for me. It's like, right. I don't understand when people are mad at their students if they don't practice. Mm-hmm. It's like, I don't care.
Well,
not everybody has to be Charlie Parker.
Those are just narcissists that are mad at themselves through their students. It's like living vicariously through their students' failures.
I don't think that if everybody would spend 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 hours a day playing music, their life would be better. It's not for everybody.
Yeah.
I don't understand why I need to care. And a lot of the students feel like they want me to motivate them to do it. And it's like, you're not a kid. Yeah. I understand with a kid, that's part of why it's fun. The reason why it's fun to do it with kids, you talked about the last podcast, because you show them Scott Anderson, like, oh my God, my mind is blown.
Well, you remember how through them, it's like you remember how great this thing you love is.
Yeah, that's like the point with kids in general. Yeah. Right?
That's
it's like
the same
you
reason
get to
Clintons
live.
Eat fetuses.
Yeah, it's like...
So the same reason the Clintons eat fetuses.
Yeah, for example.
You're
well, it's like, but it's true. It's like the stuff that I see with Malma, it's like with my daughter, she is so happy and gets so excited. I would never get that happy and excited about something.
Yeah.
It's just, it doesn't get like that anymore when you're an adult. But when you see a kid going through that, and it's genuine, you get some of this feeling. That's part of the fun of being a parent, and also part of being a teacher, when you teach people and you blow their mind with music. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Right.
So... with the adults, it's not like that. It's like, I don't care. I'm not reliving anything through you. I was already a musician in your age. Yeah. At your age. It's like, there's no, oh my God, I'm 25, I'm 45, and I'm not 45 yet. It's like, right. I'm 45, and I'm discovering. You already know all that stuff. Yeah. It's like, that's not like, you come to me to take, I don't know why you're coming to me, but you come to me to get something.
Right. I have one student in England right now that's actually badass. Like, he's like really on the right path.
Yeah,
like
you can
working hard.
How old is he?
Old, like
yeah.
46, something like that. But
I'm not saying you can't get better. You can get so much better.
Yeah.
And some people
all you got to do is just do the work. I mean, it's like, and again, I am a resource.
Yeah.
I am not your fucking guru. You know what I mean? I'm just a guy who knows how to do something that you can ask things. If you like what I do, I can verbalize some of it, but that's it.
Yeah. When I teach people about technique, I was like, at least I know what I'm talking about.
Right.
Like that I know. Like some stuff I know because you can see that I know it. Mm-hmm. So I tell you, it's like, if it's not enough motivation for you, but I tell you, if you do what I'm telling you, you're going to get what you say you want. When what you say you want is not what you want.
Right.
That's just how I see it.
Right.
So
yeah,
it's difficult. It's really difficult.
It's a tough subject.
Students. Yeah, because I don't have.
Well, it's frustrating because a lot of them come to you with impossible problems or problems that will require a psychological makeover before they could be addressed.
Yeah, that's usually what the issue is. Usually it's something that's much deeper psychologically.
Yeah.
That I'm not equipped to deal with.
Yeah, and that's the truth. Like,
I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to delve into this place. I'm not trying to rebuild somebody's psyche.
Or you're not, you're also not capable of it.
I know.
And if you try, it'd make a mess.
I know. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah. It's tough. It seems like it's all just moving your fingers, but past a certain level, there's a kind of you got to really wake up a part of yourself that's making good decisions repetitively. Especially with how you're approaching problems and problem solving. If you don't trust yourself to come up with exercises, let's say, like if you're at this place of like, okay, I know a C major scale, but what do I do with it? Like, did you try some things? You know what I mean? Did you try some things that sound like? Did you try to understand in the context? Let's say you're playing on the first chord in a song everybody plays, like All the Things You Are.
Yeah.
You're playing on an Aeolian mode on an F minor. Did you see what other people are doing? Right? They're not playing it up and down. What are they doing? Do some of that. You know what I mean? Like just and then do that in a lot of things.
The other problem with music is I heard this guy, you probably didn't hear about him. It's like he's a jiu-jitsu coach. His name is John Dunhau. And he has the best jiu-jitsu team basically in the world by a lot. And he was saying how people come to train with him and his team. And he tells they done the first day, and we said, okay, see you tomorrow. And then the person's like, you want to tell me that we're doing the same thing again tomorrow? It's like you train that hard 2 days in a row. And then he said a lot of people don't come, and then some people come. And then he says, okay, see you tomorrow at the end of the second day. And then it's like 3 days in a row, see you tomorrow, 4 days in a row. And he's like, no, we're doing it every day. You do it every day. Some days you're tired, you still train as much as you can, but you're still training. You don't. So that's the problem with music. It's not like, hey, because when they hear us talk, it's like, oh, I practice for 10 hours, I practice for 12 hours. It wasn't one day.
Right. It was every day.
It was like years. It's like that's what people don't get. It's like that's a problem.
It's tough when you're grown up. I mean, like on that music stand behind you, I printed out like the only book Frank Sinatra ever wrote. And it's 16 exercises and 5 mouth positions. And I've been doing that for an hour a day. And it's a fucking nightmare. It sucks. You know, it's like all you're doing, it's like ooh, ah, shit like that. Like just going key by key with mechanical exercises, remembering to take a long breath.
Not speeding through
it with a metronome. You know what I mean? Like I'm just doing it, hoping that something changes. So far, nothing, by the way. You know, so far I feel like everything's identical. But I know that probably a door will open eventually. Yeah. And if it doesn't, after a while, do something else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But the point is that the kind of mechanical practice that you need to do when you're starting to build technique on an instrument, like, honestly, I have no recollection of that period of guitar. I remember it in vague, blurry, hazy, like, I can't believe I did that. You know, but
it's insane.
But I do remember doing sequences. By the way, I saw a YouTube video. Fender is putting out this thing called, like, Technique of the Week. And they had like they have like young girls showing something, and I had to.
Well, are you trying to tell me there are no girls that are good enough to teach guitar technique? What are you trying to tell me? Out of like 4 billion, how many billion people are in the world? 9, something like that. 5 billion girls. None of them can teach technique.
I'm just saying Fender hasn't found them yet, but. Anyways, this one girl I saw was like giving a for real lesson, and like she was, and the beginning was like a solo, and just like she went like, and I was just like, what was that? And then she's like, hey everybody, so a thing I really like to do is called sequences. And then she just took G major and just went, so I like when I practice, I go like. Da da ba de da 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 de da 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 de ba. I was like, do we need this? Does this need 700,000?
Young people teaching is one of the most infuriating
things. She literally said, my guitar teacher told me to do this. Why are you showing me a little girl who goes to a guitar teacher on Fender's fucking page?
Yeah, I know.
What the fuck is going on?
I know, it drives me nuts. I see it all the time. Even people are 20. I see people that are 20 that finish a jazz degree, and now they're teaching all levels. It's like, you're not in our levels. You're not in a good level. You suck. You just finished a jazz degree and you think you can just puke. I hate it.
It's funny.
What do you have to show? You know nothing. You did nothing. You accomplished nothing. You are nothing. Stop it.
I have to issue a public apology. I just remembered. meant to do it. Julian Lage, I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, you.
For years I've been saying he's been ripping Nocturne off of Tom Petty,
and it's not even his song.
It's Coleman Hawkins and Sam something. Somebody wrote that on my life feed. I didn't believe it. I said no way, and I googled it. It's true.
And you've been saying it so
much. So I'm so sorry. I know now that Coleman Hawkins ripped off Tom Petty.
Julian Lage. Probably somebody saying to him, and he was like, "This guy is such an idiot."
Right.
He's like, he doesn't know anything about jazz. And it's like, if somebody will keep playing All of Me, and you're like, "Oh, what the fuck?" And like you'll say it's a different song, but it's not All of Me. Oh, you're ripping off Coldplay, not knowing that he's playing All of Me. Yeah. You're like, yeah, you would think you're a fucking idiot.
I am an idiot.
All of Me, that's the same chords of Creep. That's the same chord of Creep. It's just ripping off Creep.
I know how. Exactly how it came across is how it is. I am an idiot.
Yeah, it's like, I'm just saying, the stuff that Julian Lager said about you and was correct.
It's like, just what an idiot.
It's very embarrassing.
I'm embarrassed.
Yeah.
Yeah. I bury my head in shame.
Yeah, you should.
But I didn't think it was a cover. It sounded like because he
owned
did it. He really made it he really made that Tom Petty song his own.
Da da dee da da, yeah.
Fa da dee da 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 dee da da. Yeah. So I don't know. It's I'm speechless.
Yeah,
I don't know. Next up, I guess Rick Beato is going to be a great guitar player.
You should really hear him play bebop.
You should really hear him play bebop. Take everything back.
How crazy it would be if somebody would tell you about somebody else, but you should hear him play bebop, and when he actually fucking rips.
Yeah, that
never happened.
Inconceivable.
Never happened.
Inconceivable.
What's the name of his guitar player that you love the most? You used to be really influenced by him. Bill Frisell.
Oh yeah.
And his guitar bending techniques. And yeah, how crazy it is if he actually can play bebop.
I heard him play bebop. Thankfully he cannot. No, he's actually, for what he does. He's okay.
No, that's not the point. My point is not if Bill Frisell is a good guitar player.
He's a good guitar player.
That's not the point.
No, he cannot play jazz.
The point is if he can play bebop. It's not even jazz, it's bebop. That's the only point.
Well, he has something when he plays jazz. It's not true. Like it's kind of like Jim Hall or people like that where they have so little technique, but they're not sloppy players. You know what I mean? So and Jeff Beck too. They're not going to attempt to play a 30-second note line. Everything they're going to do is going to be with a nice sound. So Chet Baker too, by the time they play eighth notes, it sounds explosive.
But it's tough to do it because it has to be in some way not... when you play just quarter notes and like occasional eighth notes, like Chet Baker does a lot of time, it has to be... First of all, it doesn't work all the time. Mm-hmm. But when it does work, it has to be it has to make sense, but it also has to be very not symmetrical in a different way.
Sure.
So it won't feel like just a stupid melody.
Something about the phrasing needs to be surprising and not just like happy birthday-ish.
Yeah.
Like chromaticism in the right places, super nice tone, like time feel that's a little bit warped.
Yeah, it's funny. I feel it's like sometimes like the solo I sent you on Singing My Dreams, it's a little bit too square for something that I would usually like. Mm-hmm. But
in gypsy jazz, it works better. You don't need quite as much syncopation a lot of the time, especially for the end.
I'm talking about more about like the way the ways are structured, and it's just. I think it's fine. I think we can make it work. It's just when you play chord, when you don't have a lot of stuff happening in the middle, you can't do it.
Right.
So it's like when you have a lot of stuff happening in the middle, at least there is some stuff that's going on that makes it work. I feel like, and if you don't, it's just.
Yeah. How good is Clifford Brown?
Oh, that's great. It's one of the best jazz albums I heard.
Yeah. Study in Brown, Max Roach Quintet, very recommended. Like, just...
It doesn't sound like we're studying poop.
Study in Brown. Yeah. You couldn't name something like that today. But yeah, man,
it's a good album.
It's really well
I like the arrangement. I like all the stuff.
It's a little repetitive, like to hear the drum solo, like that circle of solos, but his soloing's so good.
I really like that album. I don't like the pianist.
Yeah, he's the fast songs, and he's really eating shit on Cherokee. It's like he really sounds like he's like a measure behind, trying to catch up. But yeah, A Train, great version. Cherokee, great version. The
I'm not super into the saxophone player either, but A Train is great. Like his solo over is so good. The saxophone solo on A Train there, it's really one of the best. Like I don't remember hearing a better saxophone solo on A Train.
Yeah. Like Clifford Brown, though, just crushes it on a lot of songs.
Yeah.
And his rhythm is really interesting, like on the blues especially, like just a lot of 16th notes, even 8th notes, like just doing
it's
all
really
the
driving
good shit.
in a good way. I also like the thing that trumpet players always do, and I try to do it a bunch and it just never works.
What?
Like to riu, 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 riu. And I've done it a lot, and it's just I can never make it, doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
But with trumpet, it's just so good. I love trumpet.
Trumpet is really, it's kind of like
just the sound is so pointy, and I love it. I love how it comes out. So.
Yeah. Trumpet is really kind of one of the most. I mean, I don't know. In a lot of ways, it's the iconic sound of jazz. Like in like a few notes to sum it up. You know, like they're definitely the greatest players have been certainly saxophone players.
Yeah.
And pianists, I would say, but I don't know, something about like just. Really Louis Armstrong, and it just doesn't get any better, like in terms of like the vibe and the feeling of the music.
Yeah, trumpet players just for some reason didn't. Well,
they didn't gracefully do the transition into bebop playing, but Clifford Brown did.
Yeah. Freddie Hubbard had some stuff I like.
Yeah.
But
Harry James, man, fucking crazy.
Yeah, but that's a different style of music.
Yeah,
if we're talking about like more modern stuff, it's just we had good trumpet players.
Yeah.
But we didn't produce great music consistently. That's what it felt like to me.
Yeah. Anyway, this is a good length. I don't know. We're going to be on tour, playing 4 shows in Columbus, Cincinnati, Pennsylvania, and Hippie Festival, and also where else are we playing? Fort Wayne, Indiana. Then we're doing a backyard tour. I think all the dates are booked, maybe except for one, but by then it probably will be booked. May 8th. We're still looking for something in between Shreveport and Cookeville, Tennessee.
We had some offers, but nothing that made sense driving.
Yeah, and in any case, check us out. Subscribe to this podcast. That's the most important thing.
Hit the bell.
Ring the bell on YouTube. YouTube.com/Marbin Music. Subscribe there. You can buy our stuff at marbinmusic.bandcamp.com, facebook.com/Marbin Music. See you guys later.